Here's Patrick Johnston, columnist for the Province and Postmedia.
Hi, guys.
Good day.
Yes,
Hello.
love my vehicle. Love my
Good.
Toyotas.
Good.
We can't pay you extra for that. Sorry.
No, well, let me know if there's an opportunity.
Going to start with our poll question. Patrick, do you feel sorry for Canucks players?
No, because
Tom Wielander didn't want to. You didn't want to console him there, reach out and hug the kid.
Have you no empathy?
Honestly,
I don't know, man. This is the thing, right? Like, this is the job. Like, as Don Draper said, that's what the money's for. Like, losing, don't get me wrong, losing sucks, and I feel bad for them that things aren't working. And I talk to especially a lot of the young guys. Like, this is not fun, right? But Linus Karlsson, he and I basically talked about this last week. Like he's like, I cannot feel sorry for myself. I am here, and I want to be part of the solution, and I want to press forward. And yeah, it's not fun right now, but this is an amazing life that I have. So, no, I don't feel sorry for them. I mean, you want to see athletes succeed and perform, and that's why we're there, and that's why you feel bad for Thatcher Demko that his body is breaking down and not working for him, right? He's also getting paid $8.5 million next year. So
yeah, that's what the money's for. That works for a lot of cases. I mean, they ultimately are human beings.
Yeah, and you know what? Listen, like the young, like we can have a long podcast about the ethics of the draft and whether the draft should just be blown up altogether and all the kind of reasons for it, not just from a sort of what would happen to player recruitment standpoint, but like how unfair that is. Unfair when you are told which team you're going to, you don't have a say.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do sort of feel sorry for them, but at the end they know they're in the NHL, and most of these guys, it works out okay. So.
And signer beware too, right? For the Marcus Petterssons and the Jake DeBrusques of the world, You signed up here. I mean, signer beware, right?
Yep. So yeah, no, they'll be fine. They'll live.
Okay. They will live.
Okay, moving right along. How do you feel? How do you feel about Philip Hronek as next captain of the Vancouver Canucks?
The captain role is so much more, and so many have said this, right? Is so much more than just the sort of leader of the team, if you will. The guy in the room who carries the most weight. It's a public spokesperson job. It's a sort of a metaphorical representation of the spirit of the team, who the public gravitates to. In terms of effort and heart and everything we hear behind the scenes, I think there's a lot of things to commend him as captain. I think that the way he plays does also connect with fans. I think that part matters. So I see the argument. I just, in the end, I have the same observation that everyone else does, that he is a reluctant talker in public. And when that is a large part of the job, fairly or not, I just don't know if that's something he really wants to do. Like, I don't think you can be a leader without having the C. So, like, is he the guy? You do have to be that guy that can rally the troops and do the job, right? Like, you cannot have a fourth liner as the captain. You have to have someone who is playing a reasonably major role on the team, right? He doesn't have to be the guy, but he has to be able to, when he says we need to bear down, be a guy who truly can bear down as opposed to sitting at the end of the bench. So Hronek, for that part, is definitely not that guy, right? So I think from that side, perhaps you might think like a Tyler Myers. Tyler Myers is a great spokesman for this team, right? We go back to the original question: how do you feel sorry for them? Tyler Myers is very much a guy who says, "No, this is where I picked, right? Like, I'm here, and I am going to do everything I can to make this team better and lead the way." That said, Tyler Myers is not a leading player on this team anymore, right? So can he be a captain? Like the question.
Well, also might be traded here, Patrick, either by March 6th or when his clause diminishes in the summer.
But I'm just saying, in terms of your options, like it may also be that he's like if Hronek's the last man standing here, like it's not going to be Elias Pettersson. Who else is there? It can't be one of the goalies.
So Blake and I had a good debate on this last week, and I think Canucks fans are with Blake based on what I see in our voting and comments, but Blake's of the opinion, don't even name a captain for next season. That
I think that makes sense.
I don't want to misrepresent your position, but let it develop organically in time, and if it takes more than even next year, you're okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm of the opinion you're going to have 23 people in the room next year. Like, if one of them isn't captain material, isn't that a collective indictment of leadership amongst that many human beings?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and I think this is a case where both these cases can be true. I think it makes sense to slow roll the decision. I think it makes sense to have a bit more of a sort of a collective approach. I mean, don't forget, that's what they did the season before Bo Horvath got named captain. I mean, everyone felt Bo was going to be the captain, but there was sort of this stretch where they're like, we'll just sort of glide into this, you know? You certainly hope there is captain material in that room, right? And if not, absolutely. What a disaster. I do not think they're in that kind of a situation. I don't have the impression that this team is in dire straits in terms of leadership. They obviously do need to, I've been saying this for a while. I think like they need to change the mix up, and that's been going back for a while, and they've been doing that. So we'll see how things shake out. But yes, with a young group of players, you do need someone to focus the sort of challenge and what we're trying to do and what matters in terms of assessing what's happened and what doesn't matter as much and when the moments count, those kinds of things. Like I hate the term culture carrier, right? But there is something in that term in the sense of you show up to work, you get it done. Now I know obviously people don't want to hear this, but if you ask guys, of Marcus Naslin's era, they will quietly say that one of the guys that showed them the way to carry themselves through all the losing was a guy that wore a certain number 11. That said, he moved on, and Marcus Naslund and Matthias Oland and Ed Jovanovski and Brendan Morrison and Todd Bertuzzi, all those guys, in the end, they may point to Mark, but like it came down to those guys being able to do it, right? So they were young players. They set the culture. They set the tone, and then the team became theirs, and the evolution was already there, right? Like they were the leaders because they were the leaders through the shit, right? Like that's the thing I think we kind of gets lost. It's not like we sort of metaphorically think of a crown being passed from one captain to the next, but really what it really means is you do not get to be a good winning team. You do not become the West Coast Express without having the heart and the character to get through the bad years. And that is where the leadership truly lies. So to me, that's where you look. Who are the guys on this team that's being rebuilt? Who are the young players? And it's going to be in many ways on those guys to figure out who the captain's going to be.
I've sharpened my opinion on this, guys. I emphatically believe Philip Roenick cannot be the captain here. And this is after simmering on this even more, in that we've been taught a very hard lesson in this market over the last 3 years about the emotional part of a team, about the culture part of a team,
right,
and how important that is, because this team was more than skilled enough to be good at the start of this year, and certainly over the last couple of years. But we've been taught that the culture and the tone matters on a team, especially a team of this size. And Philip Roenick is a one-trick pony. There are not two sides to Philip Roenick. Philip Roenick is the intense, burr in the saddle kind of guy, which you can have room for that guy on your team.
Absolutely.
But he cannot be the guy where how many times have we uttered it all starts at the top with this organization, and within the bounds of the on ice product, it starts at the top with the captain. That cannot be the guy where everything trickles down from. Not that tone, not that guy. We've learned these lessons already here in Vancouver. It absolutely cannot be him. That being said, does it not feel like the team is trying him on for size a little bit here?
It's possible. Yeah. I mean, it's also like, what are the alternatives at this point, right? Like, who are the leading figures on this team? I mean, I can tell you, there's been, like, the PR choices are clear. Like, they are keeping the young guys out of the limelight, and they're saying that these are the veterans, and the veterans are going to be the voices and faces of the team right now, no matter what, for better or worse.
We may never see Tom Willander again.
They're keeping the young guys out unless they score a beautiful goal, in which case they appear before cameras and microphones and say not a single thing was positive and use words like awful.
Clear. Let's be clear, in terms of social norms and social needs, like, well, that the sort of that leads you potentially into sort of participation ribbon mentality. And I'm not one who's normally ripping on people for saying good job, but, like, if you do a bad job, that's part of, like, the gig, is that you need to be there to speak to how things went badly. Because in the end, as Teddy Bluger highlighted on the weekend, people are paying a lot of money to be there, and a lot of them do want to know what happened and what didn't happen. So that is part of this whole process, is that you do need to hear from everyone. And that is part of leadership. Like, this is the other thing. And I know I haven't talked about this in a while, but I know I brought it before. Years ago, I had this fabulous chat with a guy named Ben Ryan. Ben Ryan was the coach of the Fiji Rugby Sevens team. Brilliant, brilliant leader, coach. And I sort of brought up the idea in conversation with the 15 years ago in vogue was the leadership group, and we still hear it now, that there's sort of a collection of sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that kind of are the ones who set the tone. And he said, I think the leadership group is actually kind of passes the buck. It tells a subset of players that they matter more, and that the guys that don't matter are an out group, and that's not what you want in your team. That fundamentally true leadership is empowering every single person in your lineup. Now, obviously, the fourth liner is not going to have as much impact as your superstar center, right? But nonetheless, a truly healthy, effective environment is one where that fourth liner feels empowered enough. And we saw glimpses of this with Taka a couple seasons ago, right? They talked a lot about how they were able to challenge each other. And they were able to challenge each other in ways that were healthy and useful. So that means that the fourth liner feels that when he steps on the ice, what he does really does matter. It's not just I'm on the ice to give the other guys a rest. I'm on the ice to make a difference in the game in my 8-9 minutes. And that my contribution, however it is, whether I have a voice or not, matters. And that's what the leadership is, that everyone on the team is a leader, and that it does not matter who wears a letter.
That is really, really interesting. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Football, there's a number of quote-unquote captains that go out for the coin toss. But, of course, especially if it's a veteran quarterback, like a veteran quarterback is almost apart from his teammates. He's almost more coaching staff and management. Yeah. In cricket, the captain is such an august figure and title, right? That similarly, the rest of them look upon him as sort of a quasi-coach manager who just happens to be on the pitch with them. I wonder if hockey's got it wrong all this time. Just one captain, no A's, or no designated captains at all, which, of course, outside of the New York Yankees, very few baseball teams have a quote-unquote captain, right? Very few.
I've said for years it is a vastly overrated
Yeah, you
thing.
have. I got to give you that.
I mean, I'll say this. I'm working on a story about Sidney Crosby for the Olympics. And, I've obviously talked to teammates and whatnot. And, I talked to Teddy Bluger the other day. And Teddy said to me, the thing that stands out the most to him, and sort of it's a bit of what's Sidney's legacy? What's his, when we look back, what's his story? What's his story now, really? He's 38 years old. And Teddy said, the first time he was called up in 2017 or wherever it would have been, this team has won the Stanley Cup. Like, he's walking into a room that is immensely, for a young player, immensely intimidating, like from his own sort of self-projection. And he says the first person to say hello and greet him and welcome him is Sidney Crosby.
And I've heard that about other guys who have stepped into the Penguins room, that Sidney makes a point to be sort of the first face, first voice, the welcoming committee.
which goes to what I was saying. Sidney is the face, right? And he's the guy that speaks, and he's the captain. And in the end, what he does matters the most. But he also recognizes every single person he's playing with matters, and that he just hangs out the guys. And as Teddy said, you're on the road, and maybe some guys want to go only to fancy restaurants, right? Sid doesn't care. He goes, "Where are we going? What are we doing?" And the group go, "Well, we're going. Let's go hang out in this kind of funny little place." And they go, "That's where they go," And it's just like, he's not fancy. He's not, and I think Teddy want to be clear. Like, so that's fine. Like, there are guys that do that, and that's fine. But what makes Sid work is that he is truly a man of the people, and you see that for years and years and years. Like the preseason video that the Penguins put out, Sid going to meet a season ticket holder, right? Like that to me has always stood out. That this is who this guy
while being the best player on the planet.
Well, that's it.
There's no photocopier.
But again,
this.
that's the flip side of being the captain as sort of coach or staff, and that almost works better in hockey, given the culture of no tall poppies and everyone means everyone matters the same. That if Sidney disarms every new player walking into that room who is a little nervous, going, "Oh my God, that's 87 over there." Suddenly you have a culture and a dynamic in the room that feels authentic. Right? That can fall in line with that hockey culture of there is no hierarchy.
But again,
it feels authentic.
That's a special power of being the best player on the planet. Nobody's walking into the Winnipeg Jets room and going, "Oh shoot, there's Adam Lowry over there." Like it's not the same mystique.
No, but yet there is I think just a mentality to recognize at the same time, though, which is we saw it here, right? Like the Sedins were like that, right? That whole group. It didn't matter that they didn't particularly get along at times, perhaps with Ryan Kessler or whoever. It didn't matter. They all, it really was a rising tide with those guys, right? Like there is a mentality there. It does matter from your top players. There's no doubt about that. Don't get me wrong, right? But it has to be an overall group mentality that wins out.
Really great chat, but I got to move on here. Thank you for bringing that up. Sorry, was that?
No, it's good.
Okay. The arena, Rogers.
Oh, yeah.
Arena.
Oh, dear.
You spend a lot of time there.
This is an athletic survey of fans and of beat writers, so people who see all 32 buildings around the NHL. It ranks 29th. It scores very poorly on atmosphere and affordability. The fans lambasted it to the point of 28th in the league, which honestly, given how long the seats have taken, Blake, and the seats were falling apart and didn't have cup holders, I think 28th is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Boy, the fans in those other markets must really hate their building.
Yeah.
What's to be gleaned from Rogers Arena? We're 29.
I'm trying to imagine how it's 12th in location. I mean,
it's downtown. It's right at the foot of public transit. If you want.
Anyway, Anyway,
that's the best thing that's got going for it.
Honestly, I think this is one of these spot on, like the wisdom of the crowd. Like I understand why beat writers put it kind of in the middle. Like I'm at a certain level, I'm surprised that beat writers selfishly, like we should, don't knock it for not having a proper media room. But as a sort of, I will say this, just quickly on the media part, like it's the press box is among the smallest in the league, but the view's still pretty good and the meal's still pretty good, and it's pretty easy back of house for us to get around. But anyway, on the fan element, like listen, it was a lovely building when it opened. Mm-hmm. It I think as it noted, but that was 30 years ago, and obviously constrained by the viaducts, which makes it narrow. The sightlines remain fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'll give you that.
And
mm-hmm.
I think if the food and drinks weren't so expensive, it would rate more highly because the food is really good.
Chef Robert is one of the best additions they have made over the last 10 plus years
and that is
to
the
that
thing.
facility.
Like, listen, like, we throw heat at the Acme for lots of reasons, and almost all of them good. Give them some credit. They know food and they know entertainment. Like, that part is good. And I have a friend in the Madrid Lounge, which is next to the Pratt, and I go say hello to him, every once in a while, and you can see how nice that setup is. And you go down on the concourse, and you can see how nice the stuff in the concourse. But things are expensive at that place, so I understand the frustration. And then, listen, the game entertainment guys get big reviews within the industry, and I think that's to their credit. They are doing their best, but there's only so many ways you can shine a pig, right? And the team is not winning, so it is not fun. In 2024, that playoff run, that experience, that was the real deal, and that's what we used to get. And in the end, that hasn't happened, and there's a lot of reasons why, and mostly, as we've said, you already said, Matthew, the reason why they haven't been in the playoffs more comes from the top. And that fundamentally is the biggest problem. So I don't know what the future is. I think they'll be in the Rogers. I mean, certainly, I think the Aquilines would like to be in Rogers forever. I know
they have no choice. They're not building. Patrick, they won't buck up for a practice facility. Sure as hell not bucking up for an arena. Plus, they they have towers attached to it now.
Let's just say they were urged years ago by people involved in the organization to, instead of hoping to build a practice facility across the street, to buy that land, build an arena, and then when the viaducts came down, they could have anyway. That ship has. I mean, I suppose that ship's sailed because nothing's been built across the street. But they don't. As I believe Luigi said to this particular person, that's not how we do things.
Well, they would have to muster the financial courage to do that.
Before you go, are these the these the last couple of games you're going to be doing posties with Adam Foote? Do you think? Ooh. Olympic break changes?
Yeah. Well, sorry, I missed the question, Mark. I don't know. I listen. I think there's an argument to be made that if you're going to make a change, you make it at the Olympic break. You give Manny or whoever comes in, because I think that the argument would be the defense. There are players in this team that need seasoning and they need help, and the way things are going is not good, and I don't think is in the long-term interest of young defensemen like Zeev Buium. And as I think I related last week, you look at the 98-99 Canucks, the last time they truly rebuilt, Berkey made a change on purpose. He got rid of Mike Keenan and he brought in Mark Crawford because he knew Crawford was going to be his coach as this team ascended, right? So that's the question now. Is Adam Foote the coach for the team as it ascends?
Yep.
And if it's not, what are you waiting for?
Very, very good. Gosh, you're smart sometimes.
I try.
But if you're not, here's the other argument, though. If you're not close to ascending yet, do you bother installing that guy now?
Only if he's your permanent guy.
If you have the guy and if it's Manny, then you go there. But if you don't, you don't want to rush into this situation. There's an element of time is of the essence, but time is also
timing. Period. Yes. Yeah.
Timing matters. So
my last question for you, given the events this week of Thatcher Demko, and by the way, nice column last Friday, pointing forward to all this, spot on. We asked on our poll yesterday, are you worried about the future of Canucks goaltending?
No, I mean,
you think one of these guys, Young, Talapilo, Medvedev?
Well, Medvedev.
You think one of them will pop, right?
Medvedev's the guy. He's not going to be here for a couple of years. Medvedev's the guy, though, and Marco Terenius, he's a good coach. He was well regarded. Obviously, that was a sudden change when they brought him in, and sort of pushed Ian Clark over to the side. No, I'm not. On the whole, the problems of the team run so much deeper. It doesn't feel like this is a team that's at the risk of starting 5 goalies in a season. They've started 4 at this point. But you look at where things are at the Leafs, you look how desperate things have been in Edmonton. It just doesn't track with how those things go. So I'm not as concerned in goal. I mean, listen, they are going to be paying a lot of money to 2 goalies that I think in hindsight, certainly, and I wish maybe I'd said louder at the time, it was an odd choice to do it in tandem. Like, I understood why they kind of looked to pay Kevin Lankinen as they did, because he helped them out in a pinch and took a lesser salary because they couldn't afford to pay him any more. But, you know, for a backup goalie, that's a lot of money and that's a lot of term. And, you know, with Demko, like, he was hurt coming into last season. He had 2 more injuries last season. There was no need to rush into an extension other than making a bet that, oh, maybe it'll work out. And I just don't know how.
Or we've got to win July 1st with the fans, so let's announce an extension, and that will be a good PR
I guess.
for us. Yeah.
But that's not. Anyway.
Okay, so you're off to Milan, and I think the next time we're talking to you, I believe will be when are you leaving?
Tuesday evening. So if you want to talk early next week, we can.
We want to talk to you from Milan. We want you right there in the soup, in the pasta, covering all the event. What are you covering?
Hockey.
We like hockey. It works.
I tell you this, I'm going to be watching those Canadian hockey games. And other games too.
Really?
But certainly the Canadian hockey games
I was
have
half
my
hoping
attention.
he'd say biathlon, but
not Nordic combined. Who do you like in Nordic combined? The Norwegian strong again. Okay, buddy. Travel safely. Thanks for this. Until next week.